All right, just talking to the mic.
Yo, hello, Zane Mackintosh here. I'm also up for hire as a hitman as well. If any of you factory boys want your competition taken out, elbows are going to be thrown and radiators will be bent. But yeah, Radelaide's going to be exciting. I'm going to say that.
I think I've forgotten how to talk.
Us kids, we're not the sharpest tools in the sheds, us motorbike riders. But
you've brought up Nathan Crawford. How much did he pay you to take out Wilbur?
Let's just say I nearly flew to the races the next weekend. I was feeling a bit factory.
I should figure out what I'm going to say before I start recording.
Yeah, gotta love it,
Going live.
There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always at my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Mental for Moto show. I'm your host, Pete Wolf. Today in studio, we'll be going inside the helmet with MX2 up-and-comer Zane Mackintosh. Before we get into it, I'd like to give a big shout out to our promotional partners, Graphics by Aqua, SPMX Engine and Suspension Performance, Death Grip Products, Wolf Building Compliance, and Works Racing. These guys have been awesome and are helping to keep the dream alive, so please get behind them. Now, it's time to get the party started. There is so much cool stuff happening in the moto world at the moment, with both the Australian and US Motocross series having just finished. The Aussie Supercross is about to kick off in a few weeks' time, and they have just announced their new rider support program, which will really help out privateer riders like my guest today. And the AMA Supermotocross playoffs start this weekend as well. I have so many questions about this add-on series and how it fits into the bigger picture, but nonetheless, I do like the hybrid tracks, and I'm excited that we will get to see some more racing. In other great news, MA has announced the riders on the Australian MX of Nations team, which will of course be Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, and Aussie MX champion Dean Ferris. I can't wait to see the boys take it to the rest of the world and see how we stack up. I think we have a real chance this year of finishing on the top step of the podium. And how about the WSX? After a couple of weeks where it seemed like everything was up in the air, and there were even rumours that the series was done for, SX Global has announced it has new owners, one of whom is the founder and CEO, Adam Bailey. Now, I truly believe that this series is one of the best things to happen in the moto scene in many, many years. So this is amazing news, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how things develop on the WSX front over the coming weeks and months. Of course, I'll be chatting about all of these things, as well as his experiences living the moto life, plus much more, with my guest today, MX2 athlete Zane Mackintosh. Now, I was going to introduce him as the privateer hero, but apparently that title belongs to Elijah Weezy. So instead, I'm going to introduce him today as the privateer hero apprentice. All right, my guest today, Zane Mackintosh. Welcome to the studio, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome to have you here. So you've just come off a busy ProMX season and you're training for Supercross. So what's been happening?
Yeah, we've been getting Super season dialed. Happy for Pointy Boy season to begin. But yeah, it's been busy, been working, trying to put a bit of money in the pocket for Supercross and trying to spin a few laps, so it's been good.
Privateer life, I'll definitely have a few questions about that a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely, no worries.
So let's start at the beginning, mate. Yeah, how did it all begin for you?
So dad used to ride as a kid. I think he even raced as like 85s just at a local.
Yep.
So he always rode, and I got a bike when I was 3, I think. And I actually used to ride in a baseball field out the back of one of our friends' house, just cut circles on I don't even know what it was. It wasn't an actual motorbike brand at the time. It was just a Graph or something like that. And then I got a KTM Mini 50, and Dad he built a track out behind the factories in Carrum.
Yep.
So it was just a grass track out there, and I used to ride that. And, before you knew it, I was riding all the time with Dad. And then I think I was 9 or 10 and was like, hey, Dad, can I go to a race? And yeah, that's where it all started.
Yep. So where was the first track that you raced at?
It was Rosebud motocross track. So
Yep.
a nice sand track. And it was one of the worst days of my life, actually. Sand, I think I'd ridden it once beforehand. There was tears involved. I crashed more. I think I crashed 5 times every lap. Like it was a way to start.
Oh, that's Rosebud for you. Anyway, I think that's just about everyone's experience the first time riding or racing at Rosebud.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those tracks. It's a massive love-hate relationship. Some people hate it, some love it, and yeah, no, it's a difficult one.
Did you find success early when you were racing, like as a junior?
No, not really. I mean, I was decent on a 50. Like I was, 7th to 10th at the Gippies and Vic titles and things like that. And then I broke my arm, which was the first bone I broke. And that set me back a fair bit, kind of rattled me. I raced Horsham Aussies that year, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Junior Aussies first year. We were lucky it was in Horsham, and I think I got 35th or something. So I was happy to qualify and things like that. But yeah, I didn't really start getting any proper success until I was about 12, 13. Last year, 65, 85 small wheel.
Yeah, yep. So did you know from like a young age that this was something that you wanted to do?
Nah, not at all. I think it was when I started winning and I was like A grade. I was kind of like, okay, I think we should really start giving this a crack and try and do this as a job.
And what age were you then?
So I think it was as I was going big wheel. So I just finished small wheel and I was wasn't really training off the bike, and I was just riding for fun. Like we went to the races, and however I went, and then it changed to, okay, let's really start training off the bike, started, really putting in hours and
Taking
working
it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's your sort of long-term goal then with racing and riding?
I just want to do it for as long as I can. Hopefully, I'd love to go over and either experience racing in Europe or the States even. Like I want to line up for an A1 main event one day on a 250. Like that's my goal. Like,
yeah. Oh, that'd be unreal.
Yeah. So I'll give that a crack. Like, not saying I'm going to go out there to win, but I'd love to just, experience that once in my life.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the US to watch a Soupy?
No. So I've never been to the US or actual Europe. I've been to Bali a couple of times on holidays, but yeah.
I know there's a few tracks over there that, there's a bit of a motocross scene, especially for holiday makers, where you can go over and stay and ride and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be something cool like that.
A nicer climate than we've had down here, especially at the end of winter.
Oh, you're not wrong. It's bloody freezing in Melbourne, even still now.
Yeah. So let's talk about this year's ProMX Championship. Just to begin, what are your thoughts on the 2023 ProMX season?
It was a wild one. Like there was a lot going on. Like a lot of the rounds had crazy weather, and we had some good and bad. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with how everything went. Like we went in with no real expectations, just to qualify every weekend, and I did that. Raced all the races that I could. We had a few mechanicals, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the year went.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was your second year racing. I think you did MX3 last year. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did MX3 last year, and I did a couple rounds in 21.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so I did that MX3, but that was, I think it was only a 3-round championship, and I did 2 of them. So
yeah. And so you obviously raced MX2 this year.
Yeah.
What was the difference between like last year and your previous experiences now doing a full season in MX2?
Oh, it was night and day difference. I come like them guys mean business, and everyone all the way up to 40th is there to like they want it bad, and it's crazy. Like everyone's a little bit bigger. Like Nathan Crawford's not a small guy. Like there's a lot of those guys are big boys, and even qualifying, like there was no respect, but like I think I made contact with Crawford on his hot lap at Wonthaggi. Like I was in the line and he wanted it, even things like that. And it kind of like, whoa, okay, these guys are not messing about.
So I've got to ask you, you've brought up Nathan Crawford. How much did he pay you to take out Wilbur at, I think it was at Maitland?
Yeah, look, we won't disclose how much, and we'll keep that one as a mystery. But nah, it was let's just say I nearly flew to the races the next weekend. I was feeling a bit factory.
First class. From a privateer perspective, how did you sort of find the tracks, the event spacing, the travel? Obviously, it's van life for you, and you've touched on it already. But the depth of the field as well, it's pretty stacked. I think MX2 is probably the most stacked class we've got in Australia. So how did you find all that from a privateer perspective to put it all together? Yeah, no,
it was a really cool experience. Like, I mean, this year I pretty much, like I was with a few of the boys, Liam Jackson and Bray and Brian Vandervenner and all them, that we were all driving up together. But in years past, it was normally Dad driving and me sleeping. But no, it was cool. Like, I think all the rounds we had pretty good location in the pits. I know QMP we were a bit out in the desert, but that was due to the venue. Like, there wasn't really much they could do about that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. But yeah, no, it was a really cool experience at all the tracks and things like that. Like, I thought the events themselves were pretty well run.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't much problems with any of them. Like, as a privateer, there's only so much you can ask for. Like, we were included at most of the rounds. So yeah, no, I reckon, Aussie ProMX did a pretty good job of running the nationals this year.
How did you find the tracks? Wonthaggi, there was the tragedy there, so that was a bit rough, a rough beginning to the season. But even then, the track was pretty deep and wet, and then we went to Appin and then Wodonga, and so the first few rounds were pretty rough. They were pretty deep. There was a lot of criticism, I guess, of the track prep at those rounds. How did you sort of find those conditions?
They were difficult. Like, there's Wonthaggi was tough in that, especially that first qualifying. Like, we were first out at every weekend, and it was gnarly, deep. Like, we knew it was going to be hard, like, because it's normally wet in practice qualifying for the 250 guys. And then the track looked like it was maybe starting to come together. And then we obviously had a very tragic day. But Appin was, I think the heat scared them. Like, they put down as much water as they could, and it was too much. In the moment, there's only so much you can do. You think you're making the right move, but if they hadn't put too much water down and it was a dust bowl, they would have got criticism either way. So
yeah, that first corner was just insane.
Yeah, I think things like that, I don't think they realised how much water they put down until we started turning it over, because I was first out and it was actually really good for the first 2 laps, and then it started breaking down and it got sloppy. Like, it had a bit of a hard crust on it with a lot of like wet soil underneath, so it looked good until you started turning it over, and then it was like, oh, there's a lot of water here.
Slop underneath.
Yeah.
Prepping a track like that, especially when it's hot, it's hard work, and it takes a lot of days in the lead up. Like, you've got to get water into it, a week in advance, turn it over. It's like mixing a cake, but in slow motion,
Absolutely.
So it's always hard when you've got an event like that and you don't know what the weather's going to be exactly a week out. What about at Wodonga? Obviously, we had a bit of a mutter there, and there was a lot of comments afterwards. There was privateers that sat out the race, some that thought that it should have been called off. What are your sort of thoughts on those conditions? Obviously, no criticism at all on the organisers. They did the best job that they could when you get 36 mil of rain.
Yeah, no, exactly. We were first out. I think I was third off the gate because everyone was a little bit worried with the lake on the start straight. But and I reckon it was really good practice, and then again we started turning it over and it went to slop. But I mean, I was actually excited for the mud. Like, I'm a decent mud rider growing up in Victoria. Like, we ride it more than we don't, and I mean, that was by far one of the gnarliest tracks I've ever ridden. I finished both motos, but like, I get for a lot of privateers the damage it did to the bikes. I know people were frying bikes. Like, it was to look at it at that side of things, but then I think it got better for Moto 2. Like, once everyone had finished Moto 1, I mean, in the end of the day, it's motocross racing. Like, we're not, on a asphalt, nice surface. We've got to go deal with the mud, and that's part of it. And it was actually the only time I think I've ever been not forced, but I was like, oh, damn it, I've got to go out for Moto 2. Like, I was actually excited for Moto 1. I'm like, it looks bad, but, I'd ridden it in practice qualifying and I was pumped for it. I was like, yeah, it's going to be wet. It's going to be hard, but we're going to have fun. And I think I did a 10-minute lap on the first lap. Like,
I had a few tip overs.
Few tip overs. I was 3 laps down on Brodie Connolly on the first lap.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like, and then I think I rode decent and finished 24th or something. But like, I was 3 laps down on the leader on the first lap and still got 24th. Like that was, some people definitely had worse weekends than I did. No, it's one of those things that comes with the sport.
Yeah, it was crazy watching Brodie Connolly compared to like guys further back in the field, because he looked like he was just cruising. He was sort of sitting just back of halfway on the bike. He kept his feet on the pegs. He didn't look like he was trying to go fast. It was just chalk and cheese to everyone else. Like everyone else looked like they were trying to race and was tipping over and stuff. He put on a clinic that day.
No, absolutely. Like Wilson Todd and Jacob Sweet, actually, they come past me and I wasn't sure if Jacob was winning it. Like, because I was like, oh, here they go. And they didn't pass me. Like, I think it was the slowest I've ever been passed. by like while getting lapped, and I stayed with them for half a lap, and then you go down and it's there goes 40 seconds. But then Brodie Connolly was the only one that come past me, and I was like, is he on the same track? Like it was was actually incredible to watch. Like I tried to follow him and I think I made it 3 meters and crashed again. Like it was, and I was like, did he actually just hit the same line I did? Because
100%.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
like,
he wasn't wobbling. His feet weren't coming off the pegs.
Yeah.
It was just, it's exactly like you said. It looked like he was riding a different track.
Congrats to him, because that was like, he put on a clinic that weekend. He deserved that win, and good on him.
Yeah, we watched the early practices and then the qualifying, and it looked like it had a hard base, and the wheels were sort of cutting in maybe 4 inches into the track. And it looked like it was going to hold up awesome. And then I think it was the MX2 guys, when the first or second time they went out, it was like they broke through that hard base. And then all of a sudden it was a bottomless pit. It was just, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, no. So it was like the track was it was wet, but it was a sick track in practice qualifying. Like it was, it wasn't actually that bad. And then I went back out and that kind of seal had been broken, and it was just, you felt like you could go all the way to China kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it was just, it wasn't ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I got photos in the corner before the start-finish straight, and I couldn't tell you what rider it was. I was trying to find a number on their jersey or on their bike, and I couldn't see anything, but it's literally just the front mudguard and the bars sticking up out of the mud, and like half the front wheel. And they had marshals trying to, because it was on the inside rut, they had marshals trying to pull it out. They were starting it. They couldn't. They ended up getting a skid steer to pull it out after the race. It was, it was just another level.
Oh, it was crazy. Like I'd go around in one rut and it was like, oh, that was a little bit deep. Come around the next lap and as someone had broken through, and you're like, oh, not hitting that rut again. Like it was definitely, without a doubt, the gnarliest track I've ever ridden, hands down. Like,
is there anything you can do to set up your bike at all to make those conditions even like a slight bit easier? Or is it just get out there and grit your teeth and go for it?
Yeah, I don't think any clickers on the suspension were saving me that weekend. It was, I know. I think it was just staying clean early. Like if you kept off the ground, it was night and day difference between having a light bike and one that had been stuck to the ground with 10 kilos of mud on it. Just trying to keep that momentum up, because as soon as you go down, it was, the bars are slightly bent or you got muddy grips, and then you're just in for hell.
Yeah, and even as you sort of touched on before the start straight, like anyone that was behind the first line of riders through there, you couldn't see from the sideline, you couldn't see the rest of the field as they went past. I don't know what that would have been like as a rider.
Yeah, well, so first moto, I think I was like gate 25 or something, and it was like I got a decent jump, but those guys up the inside had a better one, and it was literally just a wall of water hit me, and I pulled 4 tear-offs. I think everyone had pretty much hit the brakes, stopped, cleared their goggles, looked to see around them, and then took off again because there was nothing else you could do. And then I know Moto 2 actually got a decent start, went up the inside, got a decent jump, kind of hugged it round.
Yep.
and was riding good, and then I went down, and then all of a sudden I'm back to last and picking my bike up all muddy, and it was just like, oh, great.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to see Corey Watts' start technique?
No, I missed that one.
He was sitting on the start gate, obviously, with all the MX1 boys, and the gate dropped, and I thought he had a problem because we were chatting before he went out there, and they were literally halfway down the straight, and he just casually pulled out of the gate, cruised up. So he was off the start, maybe 40, 50 metres behind everyone else. And they all, like, the heaps binded in the first corner, and he just cruised straight past them and was mid-pack, like, by the third corner.
Yeah, it was honestly a shout. Like, I even asked Dad that after the first one. I said, do I wait?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you may as well go
with
it.
Everyone else.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before, but it was actually pretty impressive.
But staying clean and like clear vision and just navigating those first 3 turns was like
the key.
Yeah, it was massive. Like, I get why he did it, and looking back on it, I think a few riders wish they had done it. But no, it was one of those ones where it was like just survive.
Yeah, yep. You've already mentioned to me off air that you like the sand tracks, and you know that's understandable growing up in Rosebud and riding and racing in Rosebud. So how did you sort of feel about the tracks after Wodonga?
So I was a big fan of Gilman. It was a little bit of a harder base than I thought it was going to be, because last year it was pretty sandy. I don't think they quite got as much sand or loose soil as I thought they were going to be. Like, it had a bit of a harder, square, edgy lines in some of it. But no, I was a big fan of that one. Definitely struggled at Toowoomba and QMP. Like, I'm not a fan of those tracks. Like, they were awesome tracks, don't get me wrong, but as a big sand guy, it wasn't my forte. But then, like, I actually enjoyed Coolum. Like, it was rough as guts, but it was sandy, and I kind of could just tick off my laps and just hit my marks, and actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought as a spectator and as a fan, Toowoomba and QMP were probably the best tracks. I really liked it. I liked the elevation changes. Just they were, to me, the most US style tracks that I've seen over here.
Yeah, and I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about them. Whereas, like, Coolum, I know it's iconic, and I'll probably get shot for saying it, but it just felt like they trucked in a bunch of sand and dumped it in the middle of a paddock and built a track out of it. So obviously it's got its reputation as just being gnarly and deep, and the finale of the ProMX season.
Yeah, no, it was. I don't think if we didn't have Wodonga, definitely would have been the gnarliest track of the series. But I mean, I don't think there's much that can top Wodonga really. But it was rough out there. Like, I haven't ridden a sand track that rough in a long, long time.
Yeah, it was probably the roughest track apart from Wodonga. But Wodonga you can put down to the weather. Like, Coolum is just rough in its own right.
Yeah, it was a perfect day, and it was just gnarly. I think they actually had a fair bit of rain, come in the week before, which gave it a little bit of a harder base. Well, I think it's why it formed up a bit square edgier and a little bit gnarlier than its nice rolling normal sand rollers that it gets. But yeah, no,
especially on the Saturday.
Yeah, no, that was unreal. Like, I think it took for the bikes to turn it over and then kind of re-rip it and stuff Saturday night. So it gave it a second chance kind of for Sunday. But yeah, no, it was gnarly out there.
Yeah, some of the Queensland-based riders that I spoke to, they weren't fans of it on the Saturday because it wasn't like normal Coolum, where the sand just falls back into place after you run through, probably a bit more like Rosebud, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's like last year I did a lot of riding at Rosebud for prep for it, and I got to Coolum and I was like, this is nearly hard pack. And then this year was even harder, but I kind of knew what I was coming into. And yeah, all those local guys that were kind of riding it during the week or rode it semi-regularly were like, we've never ridden it like this before. So yeah, it was a different one. Yeah, kind of leveled the playing field a bit.
Yeah, and I think you got your best results up at Coolum of the season. Is that right?
Yeah. So I went a 28-24. So I'm pretty pumped with that PB in the last moto. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Are they the best results you've had in the ProMX series?
I scored points last year in MX3, but best races I've had this year by far. Even just not even results based, just in my riding. Like it was, as Dad said, it was good to see me actually race the whole race and not race a bit and then end up riding, kind of circulating.
Yeah. I think it's hard to fathom for for the more casual fans, but like you look at the MX2 class as an example, And guys like yourself, like they come to local races or the Gippies and absolutely dominate. Like it's a real testament to how deep the field is up there.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Like, you know, I'm out there qualifying, putting down the fastest laps I think ever, thinking I'm going like P5, and it's like, oh, P38. Oh, sick. That's awesome.
Yeah, it blows me away. So moving on a little bit, I think we sort of get a sense of, you know, how much travel is involved and how much work goes into a ProMX season. How do you put it all together? You've mentioned already, I think you're a little bit older than some of the younger privateers in the MX2 class. I think you're 20, is that right?
No, I'm 19 this year.
19, yeah, yep. But you're working, and how do you put it all together? Obviously, there's a cost involved to racing and riding, from you know, the bikes, the gear, the travel, the accommodation, the food. How does it all work?
Yeah, I can't thank mum and dad enough. Like, they cover a lot of the basic costs. Like, but I've been chipping in. Like, I pay for all the fuel money when I go traveling and the food and things like that because I'm working. But yeah, no, it's expensive. Like, you know, us boys save a bit traveling up, and like a few of the boys have beds in their vans, and we'll sleep in them on our way up to Queensland and way back, or we stop in at a few mates' houses, and we try and save money here, there, everywhere. Like,
and share the cost as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it without us privateers kind of got to rely on each other to get through it together. No, I've got, shout out Mark Dimatima. He paid for all my entries this year. Like,
awesome. Yeah.
So that was another huge cost that was just taken off our shoulders.
Speaking of that, so what sort of support do you get as far as like financial support, gear, anything else?
I don't really get too much money-wise. Like, I got massive thanks to all my sponsors, like Gas Imports, Kawasaki, everyone like that, for making the cost cheaper, making that $100 last a lot more than it should. But, you know, I appreciate all those guys for their help. Yeah, money-wise, I don't really get too much actual money itself. I just more people help out and cover a couple different things, a couple different hotels or food for the week or things like that, which is very appreciated and needed.
And to be clear, like you're sort of on the fringe of the points. There's no money in racing.
No, absolutely. Like, I think they only pay to the top 10 anyway. But like, I go all the way to Queensland and have a PB weekend of Coolum and end up with the same points as if I had a watch from home, which is a bit hard when you look at it. But I mean, I love it. There's nothing like, I love that weekend, and I don't really race for the points as much as I do for the joy of racing.
Yeah, of course. So what do you think, if I can ask, like what does a season cost you roughly to put together, just in a ballpark figure? You know, you don't have to give me a forensic breakdown of the costs.
Oh, I wouldn't actually, I don't know if I really want to think about it, but no, I think it's between 30 to 40 grand is, I believe, what we're spending from what I know of from dad and mum.
Yep.
But I mean, we get a little bit of that back, and when we sell bikes and things like that and people helping out. I think that's everything. That's fuel for the year, bikes, food. Like, I think that includes pretty much everything. But that's about what it is for the year.
Yeah, I think the focus on privateers and supporting privateers is starting to improve a bit. Like, there's a rider support program now for the Australian Supercross. I'd like to see something like that happen in motocross next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was awesome to see that they're paying up to 20th now. So
I didn't even hear that. That's unreal.
Yeah, and they've got a new, I think it's $1,000 to the top placing privateer in each class or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's awesome to see that they're giving back to the privateers. Like, shout out to people like you and Moto Limited for kind of putting the spotlight on us privateers and actually reminding, you know, MA that we are, you know, filling their gates week in, week out.
100%, and because it wouldn't happen without you guys. That's the crazy thing. And even I've noticed through the season, it was sort of one of my bugbears early on, watching the races afterwards on TV again, where they've, especially the first couple of rounds, they followed the top 5 around and no one else got a mention. And if one of the 15th or 20th place guys gets on the screen, it's like, and there's the number 36. It's like, that really frustrated me.
Yeah, no, you know, I was out there getting lapped just to get a bit of TV time, if you know what I mean. But nah, you know, it took me to take out Wilson Todd to get a mention, so things you got to do. But nah, it was yeah, like you'd go home and you'd look back and you're like, oh, you know, I think I'm getting a bit of TV time here, or nah, there's nothing. Oh, you got to try and figure out when, you know, the leaders are coming around past you or things like that. But yeah, I know they kind of mixed it up a lot more. I haven't actually watched Coolum back, but I think they were kind of going through the field a little bit more, which was good to see. Even your top 10 guys, like your Liam Andrews, your Ryan Alexandersons, and those kind of guys that are giving it their all and getting their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, they need the respect. They just, for all their hard work, they should get the credit.
Oh, I think anyone that lines up, so everyone in the top 40, I think, deserves that respect. And you sort of mentioned it already. I think the last 4 rounds, maybe even 5 rounds, it improved each round as to how much coverage they went further back in the field, and the commentators started to learn the riders' names. I thought that was awesome, because like you look in the US, some of the guys further back in the field have actually made real big profiles for themselves, and they make a living not from their race results, but from their profiles on and off the track through podcasts and other social media, like Joel Evans does over here, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Kevin Moran's is out there, and he's probably one of the more well-known riders, and I think he's getting around 15th to 20th at most of the pro motocrosses, and he's making mains here and there. So, but he'd be one of the more well-known riders on the field because of his YouTube and his things like that, and his off-bike profile.
Yeah, and I think that's what it takes to grow the profile of the sport and all the privateer riders, because it's these little breadcrumbs. They'll say, Zane Mackintosh on TV, and then you might be looking at Instagram and you see something mentioning Zane Mackintosh on Insta, and then a podcast, and it takes all these little things. It's not one big thing, It takes all these little things to start creating that profile, your brand basically, and cementing that into the spectators and the fans' heads.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even things like, there's a mention of Zane Mackintosh. My nan tells 3 of her friends they've got nothing they're doing on a Sunday, and they all of a sudden are watching it. They tell 3 more of their friends. Things like that. There's just expanding just a little bit here and there, those breadcrumbs, as you're saying, just to make the sport bigger as a whole.
Yeah, I spoke on my last podcast, I had Dean Mosig in the studio, and he was talking about how much the industry boomed during the COVID times and how much money was made by the manufacturers and the dealerships. And he was still waiting. He said he's still sort of waiting to see that reinvestment into the sport, but it looks like it's actually starting to feed and trickle back in, which I think is great to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love Dean, known Dean for a while, but yeah, so it was good to see. I know I had so many of mates that were buying 110s or buying their first bikes in COVID because they didn't really have much else to do. They were buying older bikes and building them up and getting a few bits and pieces off eBay when they could, and there was so many more people that were interested in it than they were previously.
Yeah, we couldn't ride, so
yeah, no, absolutely. No one could ride, so instead of spending money on fuel, it got spent on new bike parts that we wanted.
Yeah, new bikes, doing it up, graphics kits, trick bits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in anticipation of one day getting back out there. Doing it all again.
Yeah, hoping that 2 weeks was only going to be 2 weeks, and it just kept growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. So when it comes to riding, and this is something I found interesting chatting with a lot of different privateers like at PBI or at the races, but I found that not a lot of them actually treat you call it a career, as a business. So what's your sort of approach? Do you look at it as a hobby? Do you look at it as a business?
Especially since turning senior, I've more tried to look at it as a career. As much as it's not making me money, I'm working to do that as a job. I want to do that as a job, so I'm trying to sharpen my tools. And shout out to Elijah Wise and Trent for really opening my eyes to how much of a business it can be and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that it's actually I can make money this way. I don't actually have to win races to do it as a career forever. I can go different ways, and I love racing. If I could just race and follow the series and work here and there when I did, I'd do it for the next 15 years. But I'm not going to be able to afford it once I get kids and things like that. So to try and make a bit more money and make it a lot more feasible, that's my only goal.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's under any illusion that unless you're winning championships and you're doing it at the very, very pointy end of the sport, you're going to get rich doing it. But I think it's the difference between, as you sort of said, spending $30,000 to $40,000 a year, which isn't sustainable.
Absolutely
you
not.
can't do that forever, and to making a career out of it, and then that's going to open doors if you can keep doing this for a while, improving your skills, creating your profile, creating your brand, to making it sustainable, and then probably moving into other things post racing as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, so that's my goal, just to try and build up a bit of a profile, work on my skills, so that way even when the results get a bit better here and there, that my sponsors aren't really even focusing on them. They're focusing on the profile I have, which will hopefully provide me the opportunity to continue racing for many years, and even down the road we'll figure out what the move is when I decide to stop racing, but hopefully I can do it for definitely a few more years.
No, unreal. Yeah, I wasn't sure when I sort of thought about that line of questioning, or whether you treat it as a business or as a hobby, whether I was sort of looking at it the wrong way. Like, I'm 43. I would love to have made a career out of riding once upon a time, but obviously that's it never happened. And I've done my time on the tools in building and construction and a bunch of other jobs. And now I'm in a stage of my life where I'm just looking at ways to make a sustainable an income from doing things that I enjoy. And I thought, so I guess I had that lens when I was looking at these younger riders, going, why aren't they doing that? Like, why aren't they doing the Joel Evans thing? And because a lot of them, they don't promote themselves at all. It's not like you have to be out there whoring yourself on social media, but you can promote yourself, you can promote your sponsors. And for me, I thought, maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way. You're 19 years old, you're traveling all over the country with your mates. For the most part, you're having a ball doing it, you're having experiences, you're racing dirt bikes. Like, maybe that's just, you know.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of it is you're looking in the right lens, but us kids, we're not the sharpest tools in the sheds, us motorbike riders. But I think the problem is we don't look at the bigger picture. We just look at riding dirt bikes and
having fun.
Like, I grew up so heavily results based.
Yeah.
Do your juniors days, that was it. Like, your results was everything. And now when you get to pro motocross and your supercross and things where these other alleyways kind of and opportunities open up, a lot of us almost have, blockers on, and we don't even see them until we miss them. So, we need people that are kind of, especially I'm lucky where my mum and dad have started to open my eyes to different opportunities and things like that, which is huge. But I don't think a lot of us even notice it until, 5 years too late, when we're like, oh, I could have done this or I could have done that, and it would have made a lot of difference.
Yeah, but you can still, it's never too late. You just take what you learn and you apply. It doesn't matter whether you're 19 or 29 or 39. I think that's the way you just got to look at life. And if I could impart any advice onto any of the younger crew, I would be doing what you love. Looking back, working shit jobs and making more money, it gets you things. But in today's day and age, there is ways to make a career out of just about everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think, that's why I love it so much, that I want to do it as a career, and I see it as a career, because if I could, I'd do it. If I knew, if I could sign a piece of paper that said you'll make no money, but you can race until you're 45, I'm signing that every day of the week.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in it for the money. Like, I'd love to one day hopefully make money from the sport, but I do it because I love it. Like, there's no other way.
Yeah, I think that's why we're all here. We get to do the things we love and the things we enjoy, and that's the main bit, and anything else is just icing on the cake. As far as your sponsorship and support goes, do you actually actively seek support for your program, and is it hard to get support?
Yeah, I try. I probably don't try as much as I should, but I've definitely started working on it, working on my building relationship with sponsors and connections with people. But I've been lucky enough to be helped out from Gas for a few years now. Like, they helped me out in my junior career, so that was good to have that relationship already there. And Kawasaki was the same. Like, I've known Darren Holmes I think he knew me when I was about 10.
Yeah. And
just things like that. So I've learnt that everyone knows everyone, and building a connection and building relationships and getting your name out there is massive. So I'm still working on ways to approach new sponsors. So I'm learning as I go, but I'm enjoying it.
How do you go about it though? Like, is it just through people that you meet at the races, or do you actually cold call people and say, hey, this is my program, this is what I'm aiming to do. What can you do for me?
Yeah, so I've kind of learnt that it's a lot better to kind of, at the races, I've been trying to introduce myself to more people, kind of get to know more people face to face. It's always a little bit more personal than just a phone call, but it's hard with some people here and there everywhere. So, you know, I try and message them on Instagram or if I can get their number or things like that and kind of start to build a relationship first and then hopefully see them at one of the Supercross rounds or something and then make that proposal or just kind of bring it up and see what they're thinking or, you know.
And just see what they can do.
Yeah. You know, I'm not going to go, hey, look, can I get 5 helmets from Aero? You know, I'm going to be like, hey, guys, love the product, massive fan of it. You know, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could help me out for the, you know, next 2 seasons. What do you guys think, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll even ask what they want from me. Like I kind of show them what I can offer them and see and work with them on finding a deal that both helps me out but also helps them out as much as they help me.
Yeah, so I know you're sponsored by Moto National, so you wear the Iro helmets. What do they sort of do for you? I know they support a lot of, certainly a lot of local riders as well, but yeah, what do they sort of do for you?
So I ran them pretty much my whole junior career, and I had a pretty big crash at the start of 2021, and I actually suffered a brain injury. So I was lucky to walk away in the end from that one. Like I was in hospital for a while, and
wow.
I'm just thankful I had an Aero helmet on my head because it wasn't looking pretty at one point there. So if I'm paying for a helmet, that's the only one I'm running.
Yeah.
So I hit them up and I was like, hey guys, you know, you've helped me out in the past. And they were awesome. They helped me out with that. So they keep, you know, a very nice helmet on my head, making me look nice and pretty as well. So yeah, no, they're awesome. They helped me out with helmets and I can't thank them enough for all that. Helmets are one of those costs that you got to do every year because you got to have good helmets, and if you have a big crash during the year and that helmet's done for, you got to get a new one because you only get one noggin. So I can't thank them enough for helping me out with that one.
Oh, awesome. For transparency, the podcast isn't sponsored by Iro, but I run an Iro. I love it for the same reasons. And I think, you know, having a good helmet is super important. I was riding up at my in-laws farm. I got a little track up there and I used to run cheap to medium quality helmets and don't tell my wife, but I had a little off up there and I knocked myself out. That was about 3 years ago, and I woke up just laying in the paddock, and that was for me the catalyst. I thought to myself, well, you know, you spend all this money on a bike and gear. You know, I wanted a good quality helmet, the best quality helmet I could get. And I had neck problems, so I wanted something super light.
Yeah.
And there was the Iro. Like, I'll never look back. I don't think I could go back to another helmet now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's that's why we originally switched to them on juniors. As an 85 rider, wasn't the strongest kid, and having a big bulky helmet on I was dropping my eyes and things like that. So we got a nice light Aero, and we didn't look back. I've definitely put them through the ringer, tested them out, and more than not kept my eyes open and walked away. So it's been good.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to say a few words on behalf of our promotional partners. When we come back, we'll chat a bit of Supercross, Pointy Boy season. All right, we hope you're enjoying the show. It's time to take a quick break to say a few words on behalf of our awesome sponsors. So keep your ear holes open and your finger away from that fast forward button. And most importantly, support the sponsors that support Mental for Moto. Death Grip Products. Nearly all motocross riders experience arm pump, some of us more than others. As well as exercise and a good diet, one of the things that's really helped me is wearing the right gloves. The Death Grip Reaper glove is a lightweight glove that is designed to maximize comfort and feel. And the non-slip logo on the palm and fingertips reduces the effort that it takes to stay connected to the controls. Death Grip Products is currently offering a whopping 35% off the Reaper glove for Mental for Moto listeners. To take advantage of this offer, click on the link below and use the promo code MENTAL23 and you can conquer your arm pump demons as well. Works Racing Goggles. It's been a horrible wet winter so far, but with the Works Racing roll-off system, you can ensure that you ride with clear vision every time you get on the track, regardless of how muddy it gets. A small locally owned business, Works Racing Goggles offer premium performance at a fraction of the price of some of the big name brands. To order yourself a pair of Works Racing Goggles today, simply follow the link below. Wolf Building Compliance and Fire Protection. Having a quality fire extinguisher in your trailer and workshop is one good way to make sure that your valuable dirt bikes don't accidentally go up in flames. Servicing the Greater Melbourne area, Wolf can help you out with all your fire protection needs. Visit wolfbc.net or click on the link below and use the contact form, and the guys at Wolf will be sure to look after you. SPMX engine and suspension performance. There's one thing that the bikes ridden by the fastest riders in the world have in common, and it isn't always that they have the most horsepower, fanciest engine mods, or shiniest aftermarket exhaust systems. It's good suspension. Contrary to popular belief though, having your suspension working correctly for your weight, speed, and preferred style of riding is no longer a luxury that is accessible only to the pros. As an average rider myself, I can attest what a difference getting your suspension tuned and serviced makes. So if you want to go faster, ride safer, and simply enjoy your riding more, book in with Steve at SPMX to get your suspension tuned and serviced. You'll be amazed just at what a difference it makes. Graphics by Aqua. If you want a lit kit, Graphics by Aqua have got you covered. Neon colours, metal flaking, holographics. Graphics by Aqua are taking jersey prints, graphics kits, and graphic design to the next level. Best of all, Graphics by Aqua is locally based and exclusively use premium quality local suppliers for their full range of products and services. They even do custom logo designs and work uniforms. To see some of their awesome work, check out the Graphics by Aqua Instagram page and give them a follow while you're there, or simply follow the link below to visit their website. Once again, a massive thanks to these guys for getting behind Mental for Moto. If you like the show and want to come on board as a promotional partner, shoot me a DM or send me a message via the contact form on our website, and I'll send you some more info about the packages that we have available. Now, let's get back to the show. Australian Supercross. We're about to start. We're 3 weeks out from the Australian Supercross season. Is this going to be your first Supercross season?
So this will be my first Supercross season on a big bike, but I raced it 2 years on an 85, which was cool.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, your experiences and where you raced and how you did.
Yeah. So in 2017, I raced 85, literally no expectations. Like I come back from a broken back actually that year in motocross. So I missed the junior Aussies and everything like that. So I was kind of like, oh, we'll just go race. No pressure. We'll see, just try and have a flow. And I raced Jim Boomba, Adelaide. Oh, there was a few other rounds. I can't remember exactly where, but I think it was a 4-round series for us 85s. And that was a cool experience. Like I was pretty pumped with that. Oh, we raced back as Marsh.
Yep.
That was a massive finish line there actually. But yeah, and we did a few of them rounds and it was just a sick experience. There riding with the pros kind of. No, it was cool. It was actually a really cool experience. And then 2018 was wild. We raced in Geelong. We actually got to race Saturday at the AusX Open, which was super cool, in a stadium like that. And it was, I had a blast.
That was up in Sydney, yeah?
Yeah, Kudos Bank Arena. That was sick.
Yeah, no, I went up there with a few mates to watch that one.
No, that was really cool.
Yep. So, one of the things that's come up a bit in the last few podcasts that I've had where we've spoken about Supercross is the lack of places to train, lack of places to ride when it comes to Supercross, especially, for riders like yourself, privateers, riders that are just doing their first Supercross season. So how do you navigate that? Where do you train? Where do you practice? How do you make it happen?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have a track at home. Dave Town Earthworks helped us out there. He helped us build that one. So, yeah, that's made it way easier. Like, that's massive. But other than that, there's only a couple of tracks here and there that we really ride, and they're hard to get onto. So there's definitely not a lot of variety going into, round one. So, yeah, it's hard to train Supercross, especially as a privateer in Australia.
The tracks that you do have to practice on, like the one you've got at home and the ones that are at the facilities that are accessible, what are they like compared to the actual finished product that you might have to navigate on race day?
Yeah, so the one at home is a little bit mellowed down. There was, just for pure money costs, it's a bit hard to get a full Supercross track going at all the time. So it's pretty accurate. It's a little bit on the safer side as well. Make sure I make it through the year. But the other ones are, everything's just spec to scale, bit bit sharper, definitely a bit less forgiving. So you gotta stay on your edges.
When it comes to motocross and supercross, what sort of comes easier to you?
I'm a big fan of Supercross. Like, I've been pretty decent in the air as a junior and everything. Like, I've got pretty decent timing and I enjoy it a lot. Like, I like the timing aspect of it all and kind of putting a rhythm together. But then again, like, I can't really go past the primo sand track, you know. So they're complete opposites, but I just love them both. So, yeah, it's weird. You race in motocross season, you want to ride Supercross. In Supercross season, you want to mix it up and ride motocross. So, yeah, I love them both. But I'd probably, if I had to pick one, I'd probably stick with motocross.
Yeah.
A little bit more forgiving and a little bit bigger variety.
And what are your sort of thoughts on this year's season? We've got Adelaide, Newcastle and Melbourne. As far as the venues go, the spacing of the events, how will you sort of fit that in as far as work goes and timing goes? Is that been a challenge for you, or do you prefer them to be closer together or further apart?
I don't mind them too much. I think they're at a decent gap apart where I can still kind of go home, put a little bit more money in my pocket and miss out. Because when I'll go to Adelaide, I'll spend a week up there beforehand riding tracks, hopefully to do the same thing with New South Wales. You know, I've got a week off, so it kind of helps. I'm glad they're not too close, but then I don't want a 3-round series dragged out for a couple months either. So I reckon the spacing of them is pretty good.
With the newly announced rider support program that AUSEX have put out, is there a chance that you might actually make some money doing these ones?
Yeah, hopefully. So, you know, I think I'm also up for hire as a hitman as well, if any of you factory boys want your competition taken out. Hopefully win a bit of cash. Bit of prize money should be good. So, yeah, no, I'm excited.
Cover your costs at least.
Yeah, cover them a bit, which will help out.
Be about 1/10 of your Supercross suspension.
Yeah, absolutely. Cover my subway home.
So what sort of changes you made from your motocross bike setup to race Supercross? Obviously, suspension's a big one, but you're racing the same bike?
Yeah. So exact same bike. I've gone upper tooth on the rear sprocket, and that's about it. Cruise Tune we gave them some suspension, and they've wicked up some nice soupy suspension for me, and that's pretty much the only changes I've made. Not changing too much in between. I like staying comfy on my bike.
Yeah. So one of the things I raised in a previous podcast, and as a rider, I'd love to get your thoughts on. I suggested that maybe that they tame down the Australian Supercross tracks a little bit, and the reason for that was primarily because we see a lot of injuries and a lot of crashes. And I'm not talking about dumbing them down completely and turning them to arena cross tracks. I'm just thinking about not having them quite as gnarly as some of the US tracks, you know, with 3 to 4 foot high whoop sections and unforgiving rhythm sections. So basically the reasoning behind that, and one of the reasons I think we see so many accidents and crashes in the Australian Supercross, and I'll use the US as a comparison, they have 17 rounds of Supercross. The riders are probably riding during the off-season Supercross tracks from the time they're on 60s, 65s, 85s, all the way up. So they get a lot of experience. They have a lot more facilities to train. They get a lot more opportunities to train. They get to train under Supercross riders. Whereas over here, we've got this year a 3-round series. As we've already touched on, we've got very few places to train. What would your thoughts on that be?
I reckon it's probably not the worst idea. Like, definitely with some of the whoop sections, like, you get such mixed results. Like, you'll rock up. I know it was at 85s, we rocked up to some of the rounds and you hear them talking. Like, some of the guys are like, what's this tiny little thing? Even the top guys, you make the smallest mistake in Supercross and it can bite you big. So, you know, some of them are like, they want it gnarlier to separate them from some of their competition. But I feel like as a whole, maybe some of the whoops, everything could just be that little bit more forgiving. Like, I know I'm still new to the sport and Supercross especially, and probably aren't on their level. So I don't know how it would be for them if they see it as gnarly as I do. But I definitely wouldn't see a problem with having full gates at every round. Like, I think at Adelaide, especially with the 85 class coming back, that it probably won't be crazy gnarly. I think everything might be a little bit on that safer side.
Bit like an A1.
Yeah, you know, everything's a little bit like, let's get through this weekend and then might build it up a little bit at Newcastle for Melbourne, because I think Melbourne will be full spec because it's got the World Supercross on the Saturday.
Yeah, because you already just sort of said it. I'd love to see full gates at every round. I'd also like to see the riders, the top riders make it through the entire season of Supercross. One thing we sort of spoke about off air that you mentioned was the Australian tracks, they seem to go away a little bit more than the US tracks.
I think as well a little bit with the weather, like because we race our Supercrosses in our summer months, like a bit later in the year, and as much as it's like wet down here, Newcastle at the moment, I heard like New South Wales is dry as a bone, real hot. So I think like the tracks kind of bake you out a little bit and crumble away. And I think as well because they're built so close to the race weekend, they don't really set in too well. Like I know when we built our track, you let it sit for a week or two, kind of
settle.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because otherwise it just breaks away, crumbles up a little bit. So I don't know exactly if it's got to do with the dirt, the moisture, how it all works. But the US tracks, the super tracks look like they hold together that little bit better than us Australian tracks do.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And a lot of them, I think their stadiums can hold a lot more dirt, so that probably plays into it as well. So other than maybe just simplifying the tracks a little bit, what do you think some other potential solutions could be, like a Supercross or Arena Cross feeder series, or like having more rounds?
I definitely think going more rounds. Like I think if we get 5-6 rounds, maybe like every 2 to 3 weeks kind of thing, if we shorten the motocross series season up a little bit, because that way if it's more regular, more consistent, then there'll be more Supercross tracks getting built, more available to train on, more things like that. I feel like it'll kind of grow a bit more. Like if we have 6-round series, there might be a few more people invested in it rather than just a 3-round series.
Yeah. I was talking to another semi-privateer. He's got a supported ride, but he's more or less a privateer. And he was saying he's going to miss the Supercross simply because it's not viable in terms of he's got to take the time off work. And, yeah, there's a pretty big cost involved to go do 3 rounds as far as training the bike and all that sort of goes. I think what you sort of said about having more rounds would definitely help that situation. And now with the rider support program as well, hopefully with riders being able to make some money out of it, they can reinvest that into training. And because if they've got the money and the will to reinvest that, I think we'll see a lot more facilities start to pop up and offer Supercross options as well, like Crucix and, maybe at PBI, I think Ride Park do a Supercross track as well.
Yeah, I know Ride Park used to. I don't know how it's going to go with the new owners, but if we move it to a 6-round series, then there's more privateers looking to train, which means there's more people out at Crucix, more people out at Ride Park, PBI, if there's one there, and things like that. So I think more rounds will get a bit more people a little bit more committed, more money circulating through, which will help out the sport definitely.
100%. And then we can get juniors starting to cut their teeth as well, even if they are a little bit tamer, as you sort of said, and making them safer. We'll get some juniors being able to practice and train and learn Supercross and learn off you guys while they're still young, even if it's a few years before they actually get to race it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan that the 85 class is back. I reckon it's a key part of Supercross, like learning them on them 85s where you may only really be going double on off for the basic rhythms, but it's just that timing, not getting thrown into the deep end on the 250s.
Yeah, so do you think that is an advantage for you coming into your first senior season, like having that time on the 85?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it made the first week or two a lot easier. Like I was a lot more comfy on a Supercross track and used to Supercross suspension and things like that. I wasn't quite getting thrown fully into the deep end.
When you sort of said before about shortening the ProMX season, do you mean having less rounds or just tightening it up a little bit?
Tightening it up a little bit, like removing that 7-week break between Maitland and Toowoomba, something like that. It's not necessary, I feel like that break would be much preferred after Coolum. We could start 3 weeks earlier, like we could have the first round of Supercross now, things like that. So I think even if we start a little bit earlier in the season, I know we start a bit early this season, but like March and get it knocked over by end of July even.
Yeah.
And then you have your 2 months off through where it's wet winter and then you can go again for Supercross.
Yeah. I think that's like having a drawn out season or a compacted season. There's pros and cons of doing that. Having it closer together for privateers obviously means more frequent time off work, harder to train, less time to recover, more outlay in a shorter space of time. How do you think that'll impact or would impact the series?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't recommend they go to back-to-back weekends because that's when it starts getting really gnarly. But I reckon instead of 4 weeks between rounds, it's 3. And as a privateer, it's definitely like it might. I don't know how gnarly the effects would be for some of the guys, but I know for me personally, it wouldn't be too bad. It would definitely cut down the riding, but I don't ride that much during the week as it is, so it's only, you know what I mean? It's not too big of an impact. I think I'd be able to handle it all right, and a few other guys, but there's definitely a few people out there that would struggle getting that many weekends off in such a short period.
Yeah. As it is, the season is very long. Do you find it hard to stay sort of in peak fitness for such a long period of time?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, try and get fit for round 1. I feel like I normally find my peak form around about round 3.
Yeah.
You know, there's still a few kinks that you're figuring out through March, April, and then I feel like about May, find form. And then I kind of just try and hold on to that until the end of motocross, and then, you know, stay on top of my fitness through Supercross.
And sort of another thing that we sort of touched on off air was the difference between practicing on a Supercross track and going to race day. How and what can you do to sort of emulate and prepare yourself for having 19 other bikes on the track and, yeah, racing Supercross as opposed to riding?
Yeah, there's only really so much you can do. Like, it's so hard to replicate a race day on motocross, let alone Supercross. Like, I know at the moment I've just been focusing on hitting my marks for, like, the 15 minutes I think the races are. But then you throw in, you know, a few other riders in there and a block pass or two, and it spikes the heart rate, things like that. But I think it's just a lot of, especially these younger kids, will get a little bit carried away. Like, I'm hoping I don't get a bit carried away in the moment and just go for a jump, go for a 3 or a big quad somewhere and just get a bit caught up in the crowd. And, you know,
the nerves and intensity can definitely play a factor.
Absolutely. But even things like people don't understand is you take off from the gate and the flames behind, you feel it on your neck. All of a sudden, you're not even thinking about your throttle or your brake or what's going on. You're thinking about some fire that you just felt on your neck and, like, just weird stuff like that, you know, and you can hear the crowd cheering and you're not sure if it's you or someone else or, it's crazy.
It's just little things that can distract you from what you're doing, and the consequences, as we know, are pretty high stakes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It doesn't take much for Supercross to bite, and it can bite hard.
Have you ever had any injuries from Supercross, practicing, training Supercross? Or from your 85 days?
Touch wood, I haven't really had too many big Supercross crashes. I've had a couple where you're always gonna, and I've thankfully walked out of most. I've broken a couple ribs and things like that. But, yeah, no, I've been pretty lucky with Supercross, which has been good. But I think it's because I've stayed a little bit on the safer side. Like, I've not given up on a position, but I've kind of made sure I finished the race in some of the rounds.
I think at your age, that's a pretty good sign that, you know, there's some longevity. There'll be some longevity in your career in Supercross, because I think one of the things, you know, we see, especially watching like the AMA in the US, is that a lot of young riders are impulsive and they put more emphasis on making that next pass or not giving up a position than actually riding out the season and surviving.
Yeah, which is very easy to do. Like, you definitely can get caught up in the moment and forget that you've got, I know for them, just say another 15 rounds or whatever it is, or where for us, you kind of, like, because it's a 3-round championship, you can make a mistake at round 1 and miss the rest of the series, or you can get kind of play it safe and have a practice crash during the week doing something you've done 1,000 times anyway. So it's kind of, you know, double-edged sword. So it's difficult, but you definitely got to try and stay level-headed out there.
Yeah, I was talking to Corey Watts about it, and he said, because he come 8th in the MX1 class last year, and he goes, I just turned up for each of the rounds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's my plan, is to make sure I finish each round and get as many points as I can. And, you know, I'm definitely going to assume there's going to be a couple guys that miss a round here or there, whether it's a crash on the weekends or something during training during the week. But, yeah, especially in my MX2 class, I feel like there's going to be a few young kids that definitely get a little bit rowdy.
It's going to be chaos, I think. I think if motocross was anything to go by, it's going to get wild. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I seriously can't wait.
Elbows are going to be thrown and radiators will be bent, but yeah, Radelaide's going to be exciting. I'm going to say that.
I'll be heading over. I'm going to try and make it to all 3 rounds. And it's just, I think what they're doing with the series this year is really, really good. I thought that last year, like I'll use the Wagga round as an example, it wasn't like a premier class Supercross event. It was outside. It was during the late afternoon. The sun was setting. The track was baked. And again, no criticism to everyone that put in hard work behind it. But from a conceptual perspective, I think having them in big venues, if you're going to grow the sport and the profile of the sport, it's got to look professional as well as be professional. And this year, we're going to 3 big stadiums, and hopefully next year it's going to be 4. So is Supercross something that you want to keep working on? And
yeah, absolutely. Like, it's good to see that we're in 3 stadiums this year. Like, don't get me wrong, I love racing in a speedway, and it's a little bit more chillaxed, but it's definitely, even as a rider, like, you're sitting in a stadium watching race and feels so much more professional. But no, I'm definitely excited to keep going with Supercross. I plan to do it for a few more years, and it should be good. I'm excited.
And maybe make it to A1 at some stage.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Nah, that would be cool. Well, speaking of the US, Jet and Hunter, 2 Aussie boys, 2 of our own, just laid it down to the Americans and showed them how it's done. What are your sort of thoughts on, especially on Jet's perfect season?
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I wasn't sure if he was going to get it done at one bit there. I wasn't sure if he was going to not necessarily have a bad weekend, but that combined with, we know Chase Sexton's extremely fast. I wasn't sure if it was going to catch him off, but no, he was incredible all year. Hunter rode unreal in the 250 class. I think it was overshadowed a little bit by his 2 DNFs. It kind of made the championship fight a little bit closer than it should have been.
Totally.
But no, they both were unreal all year. Like, they showed up when they had to and they got the job done. So well done to the Aussie boys.
Yeah, and it's good. It took a little while. It was a few weeks after it actually happened that we sort of started to see some media in Australia about it. I was pretty pissed off in the beginning because it just seemed to have been under the radar in their home country. But now, finally, we're starting to hear a little bit more about it, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully get a few people a little bit more tuned into the sport, and hopefully they watch even the Supercrosses, or hopefully they watched Coolroom and things like that. So
totally,
should be good.
So a bit of a spicy question for you. Jet, obviously, he's won 2 Motocross Championships on the 250 and 2 Supercross on the 250, and now he's gone perfect in ProMotocross. Is he the best Australian motocross rider we've ever seen?
He's definitely on track. I don't think he's quite above Chad yet, just because, not to say that the guys Jet has beaten aren't incredible, but I feel like he needs a little bit better of a 450 career before we start giving him that. But he's definitely he's on his way. Like, I feel like if he gets a 450 Supercross title, I think it'd be hard to argue that he doesn't, because I see him being very competitive for at least 4 or 5 years. So I feel like he'll rack up a few wins, hopefully a couple championships, and he might have that nice and easy. But then again, Hunter might come and surprise everyone on 450. So
that's going to be really, really cool to see. I think Hunter's, when it comes to Supercross, based on their past results, he's been the more mature rider. And last year, his results were pretty good. I think he beat Jet in the when they had the showdowns as well.
Yeah. I think he's beaten Jet 3 out of the 4 showdowns.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to mix it up. And this weekend, we've got the Supermotocross Championship coming up in the US. The Supermotocross World Championship is what they're calling it. I'm a little bit dubious about the World Championship title. But what are your sort of thoughts on that and the creation of the Supermotocross World Championship in relation to the World Supercross? And do you think it was a direct result of the World Supercross being announced?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of AMA, or the US kind of people kind of going, oh, we don't want, with that world label is pretty big.
Yep.
And I think it's a little bit of a bragging rights kind of situation. But yeah, I'm happy to have more racing. Like, I love watching racing, and I reckon it's a cool event that they're doing. I do think it's a little bit, not silly, but a little bit childish how they're trying to drag out the World Supercross, Supermotocross thing. And, I'm a little bit confused now. Is that more valuable than the Supercross and the Motocross Championship? Like, I don't know how it all ranks in. But, yeah, I'll enjoy the racing. Hopefully it has good racing. I liked a little bit of the hybrid Motocross Supercross idea. No, I think the track and the racing should be good. A little bit confused on how the whole organisation of it all has come to, though.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, I love Atlanta and I love Daytona. I love that style of racing, and it always seems to lead to good racing, close racing. I think some of the guys that aren't as proficient at Supercross tend to step up and they put it to some of the Supercross guys. So you really get that hybrid skill set between motocross and Supercross starts to show, and we see different riders competing for at least podiums and top fives. But as you said, it's hard to see where it fits in. So we've got 5 champions between Supercross and motocross so far. By the end of the season, we're going to have 7 champions, potentially different champions. So would you rank the Supermotocross Championship above motocross and Supercross at the end of the day? So let's use an example. I'll be far-fetched just to illustrate my point. But what happens if someone like Phil Nicoletti wins the Supermotocross World Championship? Does that rank him above, say, Jet Lawrence or Chase Sexton?
Yeah, see, this is where I think it might be getting a little bit confusing. Like, I mean, if Jet and Hunter win their classes, then they're just going to pretty much sweep everything. But does just say a Faulkner or even Nate Thrasher, who's been really fast at those Atlanta tracks, does he come out, win the 250 class? Where does that put him? Is he now in the argument with the best 250 rider at the moment? Or that's where I'm a little bit confused on how it all ranks up and things like that, because they've got it as the motocross and the Supercross as a qualifying for the Super Motocross. Personally, I'd rank it motocross and Supercross above it, because you got to be more consistent throughout more rounds.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely gives a chance for the unorthodox riders to get up on the podium.
Yeah. Like you sort of said before, I can't wait because it's just more racing to watch. It's going to be exciting, and I love those types of tracks. But I almost feel like it's been a little bit like not well thought out, especially, and they haven't been clear about where it ranks. But my personal feeling from what I've seen so far is it almost sort of shits on the Supercross and motocross and the importance of Supercross and motocross a little bit, the way that they're treating it, especially as a playoff. So if you look at it from that perspective and we use, say, the NBA as a comparison, whoever finishes top of the ladder, which is basically what, Chase has done in Supercross and Jet's done in motocross now, that is irrelevant at the end of the season once their playoff series is done, because you end up with a champion. Is that how it's going to be long term? Is it going to start to water down the importance of motocross and Supercross? Personally, I'd like to see it be its own thing. So it becomes like a third series and a money race, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon they should run it as a Monster Energy Cup type event. So it's still big money race, still its own series, a big thing that hopefully draws fast riders. But I agree, like people now racing Supercross and motocross just to get a qualifying ticket to the Super Motocross. Like, that's what I don't know.
And one of the benefits, I guess, which again, we sort of don't know how it's going to play out, but there's always the potential it's going to attract some of those Euro riders as well that aren't Supercross experts, but definitely have the skills to ride a hybrid track. So, maybe we'll get to see the Sandmaster himself, Jeffrey Hurlings. Tim Geiser's cut his teeth on Supercross before. He's tried that out. It'd be great to see him back for one of these hybrid events.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how the calendar works too well, but like things like that where these guys that are pretty good with Supercross are like, is this a chance for them European guys to race this as wild cards or however it works to kind of get their feet wet for Supercross if they want to make the transition across or things like that. But yeah, I definitely reckon it'd be cool to see a Hurlings or something like that get around on the World Supercross scene, on the Super Motocross scene, I should say.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it like that it could actually be the catalyst to bring some of the Euro guys over, and if they do well, keep them in the US for the Supercross. So that'd be interesting to see. Or maybe they'll jump ship and head over to the World Supercross.
Yeah, so who knows? I definitely think World Supercross would probably play a little bit better into the European guys' hands. They're used to the travel, and it's a little bit closer to them rather than packing up ship and moving to the US. But you never know. And yeah, it's definitely a lot going on with the motocross scene around the world at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's great. More events, more opportunities for riders, more opportunities for riders to make money and make careers out of it. And it's bringing the sport to new eyes in different countries, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely about it. Like, more racing around the world is never a bad thing for the sport. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how the sport goes in the next 2-3 years, if we kind of rocket ship up, or if it kind of, to see how big of an improvement things start changing.
Yeah. Like we sort of said before, that reinvestment back into the sport. We're in an era now where it seems to be growing. It seems to be getting a lot more TV coverage. There's more opportunities for riders. And I think the industry, especially coming off COVID, from your apparel brands to your bike manufacturers, they're making good money. They've made good money. We're in a bit of an economic downturn at the moment, but whether we see a real reinvestment back in the sport, which is what I'm hoping for at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully these manufacturers that made a bit of extra money over COVID lockdowns, things like that, put a bit of money back into the sport, kind of grow, build it up, because more riders are getting the chance to be on the biggest stage. Australia's starting to grow. Hopefully we can grow and be competitive third country or third series.
Yep.
Like, we've got the Lawrence brothers, we've got Ferris, who's going over for the Motocross of Nations team. Hopefully we build our name back up and welcoming place for the US guys to come over for our Supercross, or European guys, or however we want to do it.
Yeah. One thing I've said before too, when I had Dean Mosig on my last podcast, he mentioned the importance of US riders coming to Australia to promote our Supercross season and it really giving credibility. And one thing that I would love to see moving forward is long-term for our own local riders to have that sort of, that we view them the same way that we view the US riders. But I think we need to get there first. There's a few steps to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Max Anstey and people like those that are doing the World Supercross for some of these Australian teams are racing the Australian Supercross. So it'll be cool to see, respect Wilson Todd, put him on that world level. Your Dean Ferrises, your Crawfords, you guys that are Aaron Taney's, Matt Moss, that are doing it with these guys that are actually at the world level, but just because they're racing over here, don't quite get the respect that they probably should.
100%. We saw Dean Ferris when he went to the US and raced a couple of the AMA Nationals a few years ago, and he had fantastic results. He can definitely cut it up there. And, being announced now for the Motocross of Nations, that's going to be so cool. It's going to be Ferris and the two Lawrence boys. Could be Australia's first opportunity to win it.
Yeah, well, it was good to see us back on the podium last year. I think it's France this year, so I think we're in a good spot to take it home, and that will, hopefully help put Australia back on the map. Like, we haven't been on a podium before last year since 2010 when we had like Chad Reed, Matt Moss, I think it was Luke Clout. So yeah, it'll be it's good to see Australia competing at the highest level again.
Oh, totally. And like I said, I think we've got a good chance this year. We've got as good a chance as any of the other teams to win. Yeah, I can't wait. Well, that's probably about it. All the questions that I had for you today, but it's been, awesome having you in studio. Before we go, is there any sort of supporters of your program that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd just like to, massive thanks to Darren Holmes, Kawasaki, Team Green, Gas Imports, Gavin, Luke, everyone there, Aero Helmets, Moto Online, Moto National, everyone like that. I can't thank them enough. Cruise Tune, Top Line, the Collective Family, Mum, Dad, the privateers, everyone. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And big shout out to the Mum Dad factory team because they support a lot of riders out there.
Yeah, Mum and Dad has to be the biggest sponsor in all of motocross, without a doubt.
You can't be thanks enough, because without mums and dads out there, we wouldn't have such a cool sport to watch.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Cheers. Thanks, Zane. Thanks heaps for coming in studio, and hopefully get you on again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for show number 15. Thanks again to Zane for making the trek down to the mean streets of Wani to join me in the asylum today. Get behind Zane as he tackles his first Supercross season as a senior in the MX2 class by giving him a follow on Instagram at motomax76. One last shout out to our promo partners, Graphics by Aqua, SPMX Suspension and Engine Performance, Death Grip Products, Wolf Building Compliance, and Works Racing. And a big thanks to everyone that has tuned in to listen. We've received lots of positive feedback over the last few weeks, which, given the time and effort it takes to produce some of this content, is the best reward of all. So that's it from me. Until next time, I'm Pete Wolf. See ya.